So the dump trailer got a lot of use over the summer and has unfortunately kind of seen better days for a couple different reasons. The one that we're going to be tackling today is this front jack here has always kind of been on its last leg. The welds have been cracked here for a long time, and was moving around with the skid steer, and the jack ultimately ended up catching on something, moving it around, and just tweaked it back really bad. It still works up and down, just obviously not right. And then I'll follow up later, but I did have a bearing go out on this axle here, so we're going to be replacing that as well. But this video, we're just going to focus on the jack. So the plan here is to cut out this old cross member, put in some quarter wall square tubing across, and then have a plate that I had made to go across them both, and that's how we're going to attach the jack, just because this cross member here is all bent and tweaked, so there's no sense in trying to fix that and just, you know, change things up and make it easier to service. So here's the plate that I was just talking about that I had made up. Drew this up in CAD and sent it off to Send Cut Send to have cut out of 3/8 plate for the base and then 1/4 inch plate for the gussets. It was first experiment with the tab and slot feature in SolidWorks, which is what I use to draw this up in. So these fit together real nice. They're a little bit sloppy, but like I said, first try with mess around with tolerances and stuff like that. I'm sure if this was all plasma, that tolerance would probably be fine because you get that little bit of taper with the plasma, opposed from this all being laser cut. It's, you know, arguably more accurate and definitely straighter. So it's a little sloppy, but it's not a big deal. So I believe that this jack is the same dimensions overall as the other one. So we're going to take some measurements off the original one, figure out where this is going to end up, and we'll go from there. And then this is the tubing that we're going to use for the cross member. So I believe that's 2-inch OD quarter wall. This is the layout of how it would be keeping the same measurements that are there. So this tubing cross member would end up here. This is 15.5 inches that would stick up above, and then this is what's below. I am going to adjust this a little bit and move it up probably 3/4 of an inch or so to make room for these gussets, so that way the gusset's not hanging down from the top. I did draw this up just kind of making it look good. Completely overkill doing it this way, but it was a good excuse, like I said before, to kind of mess around with tab and slot features and laser cut parts and stuff like that. So we're just going to move everything up 3/4 of an inch or so, and that's going to be where this is going to be located. So we're going to tack these in place right here. I'm going to TIG weld the bracket because why not? And I have a really good practice of TIG welding parts and making them look really good for stuff that's never going to be seen again. And then the way that I have this is that this is going to be on the bottom side. So that way you have the entire surface area here that's distributing the weight of the trailer, opposed from if you welded this just to the cross member, it would only be around here. And also having this be on the bottom, that way the pressure is not on the bolts. Granted, the bolts are strong enough to withstand that pressure, but just the way that I wanted to do it. You can put this on top if you wanted to, but your pressure, since your force is going to try to push that up, is putting that pressure on the bolts. With that on the bottom, the bolts just essentially hold it in place, but don't take the pressure. All right, so I got this all tacked up. I did have to redo one because it tweaked and I didn't see it, so I cut the tacks off. It pulled out a square this way. I checked square that way, but it lifted up that way. So I fixed that. I ground down where we're going to be welding on that, I'm gonna weld this out on the bench just because it's easier to get to everything. I did forget to grind all the mill scale off, so not ideal to TIG weld through the mill scale, but still just gonna send it whatever, it just won't be as pretty. And then once that's all welded up, we'll go ahead and we'll weld it onto that cross member there, or the jack, and we'll be good to go. So I got the bracket all tacked up in place to the jack. It's all squared up, it's tacked in place, did that off camera. But it's all set to go, so we'll just weld it out. The gap here is a little bit larger than I wanted. It's not horrible. It's just a little bit bigger than you'd probably favor for TIG welding, but we'll be able to get through it. But I mean, if most people would just throw the MIG gun at this thing and call it a day, but you know, gotta do things a little different. But like I said, I was able to tack it no problem. So we'll weld this thing out. I thought I ground off enough paint, but had a little bit of issue there. Really been slacking with grinding stuff off on this project, but hey, it is what it is. So well, let's get this welded. So it's all welded up, not perfect, but not horrible either. So we're gonna hit it with a little bit of the redneck powder coat, which is spraying it now while it's still really hot. And then we'll probably start next with cutting the old cross member out of the trailer, and then start making the cross member piece out of the square tubing that'll hold this in, and cut out, weld in, put some bolts in, yada yada, and start with that. So finished off getting that painted, got the trailer pulled in to the garage here, and we're going to start by cutting out the old cross member and old jack, cleaning that up, and then start laying out where the new cross member is going to go with the new jack. So got the old jack and cross member cut out. There was a weld on the bottom side under here, so I cut through the middle and then just kind of used leverage to break that inside weld after I cut the top one. So we'll just clean up the edges a little bit there, and then we'll start measuring for the new cross member. So I got both of the first cross members cut out, the angles cut out on the end, marked center, and then I'm going to use a piece of like a coupling for a threaded rod, and I drilled the hole out and just going to press that into the hole and put a weld bead around the top of that, and that's what will bolt in. Since all the pressure from the jack is coming up on the bottom, this doesn't have to be super strong, and all it is doing is really just helping keep the jack located. All the weight is going to be on the cross member on the flange. I'm all welded in. We'll just hit it with the grinder quick and grind them flat, and then we'll start knocking out the jack inside the trailer. All right, got the pieces bolted up. I also added 2 more pieces in between here on the sides that are bolted through the holes as well. Same deal with the threaded piece of long nut in the tube. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna weld up all these tubes here and kind of make a sub-assembly, and then move that assembly up into the trailer and make sure it's all square and stuff, and then weld it into the trailer. So it's all welded in. We got it clamped in place inside the frame, and we're gonna go ahead and weld it out. Just gonna do a couple heavy passes against the top edge here, and that's all I'm gonna weld it. Again, all the weight when you put it is pushing up, so that's, you know, the welds aren't holding any weight. It's simply just keeping it in place. But we'll do some heavy welds up there, and then we should be good. So we're all set. We've got a fresh coat of paint on it. The grease fitting came in smashed from shipping, so we put a new one in there, gave it a couple coats of grease. Got the handle installed. The way they had it to pinch down on it didn't work, so I put a cotter pin in there to stop this from falling out. It is moved forward a little bit, which is good too, because it gives you more leverage against lifting up the trailer, but it also gives you space in here where before, if this was out, the lid would catch on it and it would just kind of frustrating there. And we can put some mesh down in there and keep some change and stuff if we want, but other than that, it should be good to go. So another project done. Thanks for watching. Like, comment, subscribe, and keep a lookout for fixing that.